Welcome back into Cougar Sports Saturday here on KSL News Radio. Big thanks to Jess Chapman. Talking some BYU hoops here on the show. Women's basketball, men's basketball. BYU women are in action tonight at Baylor. They got a tough road trip this weekend, too. They got Baylor tonight, and then they got TCU, top 10 TCU, with Haley Van Lith on Tuesday night in Fort Worth. And then the men, of course, they'll take on Cincinnati today, and then Tuesday, West Virginia. We'll talk about Cincinnati, of course, today, 4 o'clock tip. And then Monday night, we'll preview that West Virginia game with Cougar Nation live here on KSL at 6 o'clock. We'll take your phone calls. But right now, Matt, we'll dive into the three-pointer, BYU and Cincinnati. Again, tip-off at 4. We'll toss it over to pregame coverage at 3 with Greg Rebel and Mark Durant from Cincinnati at the Fifth Third Bank Arena. In this three-pointer, we look at some stats, some players to watch, bold predictions. What's some key stat you're looking at for this matchup against the Bearcats for BYU?
Yeah, I'm going to keep it simple in this one. I just think when BYU makes 10 or more threes, I think they're hard to beat. And they did not get to that number in the loss against Arizona. And they shot so well in the first half, but they really, I think they were sub 20% in that second half from the three-point line. So, to me, it's the number 10. Can they get to at least 10 threes made against Cincy? In their first meeting, they were 15 of 24 from deep when they had that big kind of blowout win against the Bearcats, where in that second half they just exploded with 52 points. 15 to 24 in the first one. I'm not expecting 62% made from three. That's sort of ridiculous, but if you can at least make 10, like let's say they go 10 of 30, that's not a great percentage, but you're still getting 30 points from the three-point line. So they got to make at least 10 threes.
For me, it's going to be maybe just an overall efficiency of Richie Saunders against Arizona. I thought the Wildcats did a really good job compared to most Big 12 teams in defending Richie. He ended up in that game 4 of 8 3 of 8 from the field, and he was 3 of 5 from the free throw line. Richie probably had one of his down performances in Big 12 play with only 11 points against Arizona. If BYU is going to win on the road, we've seen it when it does happen at Colorado, at UCF a week ago. Richie Saunders has got to be efficient and playing at a high level and being that number one three-point shooter in the Big 12 that he is. The efficiency of Richie Saunders is going to be a stat that I'm kind of monitoring in this game.
Let's get into some players to watch for both teams. On the BYU side, I am going to watch keenly and closely Dallin Hall, who was second on the team in scoring in the loss against Arizona, 11 points. 9 of those came in the second half. And it felt like for the first time since that Arizona State win, that was in a different year. That was in 2024. It felt like the first time in a long, long time that we saw a glimpse of what Dallin Hall should be doing every single night. No one knows why. For whatever reason, he has been passive a lot this season. Because Kevin Young said multiple times, we wanted to be aggressive. We wanted to be aggressive. And even Dallin Hall noted in postgame in the loss against Arizona, this coaching staff is on me to be aggressive. Now, I thought he did astutely point out, aggressiveness doesn't always mean shooting the ball.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we need to recalibrate. They're not asking Dallin to shoot it 15 times. They just want him to be on attack. And he was getting downhill. He was getting to the rim. He had 6 assists to one turnover. And Yegor has been up and down. But I do think the offense, for whatever reason, they've flowed a little bit better with Dallin Hall. And it's probably because of his lack of turnovers. He's still really efficient at distributing the basketball and not turning it over. I just want to see him be aggressive. I want to see him getting into the paint. If it's only 5 attempts from the field, that's fine, Mitch. It really is. But there can't just be, I sit on the wing, I get the ball, I throw it back to Yegor, and he runs pick and roll. I don't like that from Dallin. I want Dallin to be initiating and making moves, get into the lane. It's okay if you take that pass, dribble into the lane, and then kick it out. I'm okay with that. I just don't want to see Dallin floating like a 3-and-D guy. That's not his game. And I thought Dallin Hall looked really good in that second half against Arizona. I want to see that continue on the road.
I like that pick, and I'm going to go with another reserve off the bench for BYU. That's Fousseyni Traore, and I feel like Foose, I don't want to say regressed in recent games, but I feel like there's Foose has had some struggles where teams are starting to figure out the way this BYU team utilizes him, and And he's got to take care of possessions too. Foose in 4 of the last 5 games has had at least 2 turnovers. I mean, even going back pretty much every Big 12 game since the loss to TCU, he's had 2 turnovers. He's got to take care of possessions. BYU, as a team, turnovers have been an issue at times for this group, and they've got to take care of those possessions. And I don't expect Foose to be, a double-digit scoring guy, similar, thought as Dallin Hall, but Foose cannot have those lapses in the turnovers. And also, too, I think rebounds against Arizona, that was a real issue against the Wildcats. Big team Arizona was. BYU's bigs, Kaba and Foose, had their share of struggles. In the first meeting against Cincinnati, Foose had 4 points, only 3 rebounds. I need that number to go up today on the road. He can't just have 3 rebounds because against Cincy, BYU they had 15 threes in that game. You can't assume you're going to go on the road and knock down 15 threes. So those rebounds are going to be critical for Foose to clean it up, and I'm really watching him, what he brings off the bench for BYU.
And that's going to lead into my bold prediction. I think BYU wins the rebounding battle. Kevin Young said after the loss, being out rebounded by 15 wasn't the reason they lost. And I think in some respects he's right. It was the inability to get stops, but one of the key components of getting a stop is clearing the rebound. And to me, it was not a coincidence that when BYU won 4 games in a row, Mitch, they won or tied the rebounding battle in all 4 of those games. BYU this season has been a very good rebounding team in terms of differential, and when they get soundly beat on the glass, it's very hard for them to win. And this Cincinnati team, this is a good Cincinnati team in terms of length and ability to rebound. And one of the underrated aspects to that blowout win against Cincinnati at home was that BYU out-rebounded them by 6. Because last year, when Cincinnati came to Provo and kind of stunned them to start conference play, Cincinnati out-rebounded BYU by 9. BYU cannot go on the road and get out-rebounded and expect to win. That's something that, in large part, you can control. There's some weird, long shots from deep that bounce off the rim weird, and you can't do anything about that. But if you box people out and rebound soundly, you're in a good position to win. This team has to rebound well, and I think they will out-rebound Cincinnati tonight.
Cincinnati has primarily been, for most of league play, the worst offense this season in conference play. They had uncharacteristic performance by their standards this season on the road at UCF. They won 93-83. I think it goes back a little bit more to a defensive slugfest in this game. So my bold prediction is that BYU wins a game in the 50s. I think BYU wins this one, but they don't reach 60. I think this is going to be a defensive battle. Cincinnati's had a lot of those, particularly at home. And I think this is going to be one of those games where it's a slugfest and it's a slog of a game. The refs are blowing a lot of whistles, slows down the pace. But I think BYU wins a game in the 50s, which that doesn't happen very often, but I think that happens today. I just get a sense that this is going to be a little bit lower scoring game than maybe you would think based on some of the recent performances from both these offenses.
The thing that I like about being in the Big 12 for basketball is even these games that on the surface don't look like it's that interesting. A game against Cincinnati in the WCC would have been one of the staples on the schedule.
This whole 3-hour show would have been about the game. I mean, it would have felt like bigger than life.
And you have to win some of these games. Yes. And so even though you're not playing some of the sexy brands in the Big 12 right now, this is a big road trip. You win both of these games on the road, I think you're in a really good position to where then you got some home games coming up, big names, hot teams, Kansas State. So, but if you drop these 2 on the road, you're in a really tough situation. So this is a big one coming up at 4 p.m.
And one of the guys that's going to be part of that big game tonight is Dawson Baker. We'll hear from him next here on Cougar Sports Saturday.